Hello gorgeous people, how are you all doing today? I do hope you are well. I'm okay-ish. Oh dear. This is a bit of a different video today than the one I was planning. I was planning to take you all to the garden. However, I have had a couple of days in the garden. It's been gorgeous. It's been so good to get back to the garden. More of that when we actually get to the garden. But a couple of days ago, was it a couple of days ago now? Yeah, I was clearing out the last of my parsnips, some more potatoes, bits and pieces, dragging it all back, weighed a ton. And I think the act of dragging the granny trolley up the stairs, I think I just ever so slightly tweaked my back. So it's feeling a little bit, yeah, I can feel my back. It's like I was saying in a video some time ago, we shouldn't be able to feel our body, we should just be able to get on. So because I can feel it, I'm being really sensible, doing much more gentle, less physical stuff, doing my stretches. I popped a bit of deep heat on this morning, smells gorgeous. Yeah, looking after my back. Because the very last thing I need at the moment is to throw my back out. I have not got time to be off with a bad back, because as much as I want the garden to be much simpler this year, and it's going to be, never mind the garden, I've got all my bits of decorating and stuff to do. I need to be up and down a ladder. Anyway, fingers crossed. So instead, I thought, let's have a little bit of a no spend, low spend catch up, because we are now into February. So I know that there are a load of you who started doing this with me last year. Yay! And I know that some of you are carrying on because you actually found it, sort of after a few months, you found it easier than you thought it would be. And you are enjoying seeing the pennies mount up and the debt go down, which is great. I know some of you are starting it for the first time this year, so we'll touch base on this subject throughout the year. There were some no spend, low spend videos I wanted to make last year, just didn't get round to, so we can do those this year. And I want to say a special shout out. I'm not going to mention names because I get lots of messages and letters sent that are obviously they're in confidence, but just to say, one of you went for it last year with your no spend, low spend. We'll clarify no spend, low spend in a second. And you, by the end of the year, had paid off a £7,000 credit card bill, which had been really starting to bug you, get on top of you. So well done. You know who you are. Yeah, so I kind of live a low spend year every year. So this is kind of my normal. In terms of no spend, I mean, let's use them interchangeably. Let's not kind of get bogged down in semantics. None of us, well, I don't think any of us are no spend. To be no spend, you would have to be producing your own energy, you'd have to have your own water well, you know, have a composting loo, be growing all your own food. I honestly, I don't think any of us are no spend whatsoever. But we could say once, okay, paying bills, essential bills, mortgage, rent, gas, lecky, water, that kind of thing, and food, outside of that, no spend outside of that. So that's why I always say low spend, because I do spend, of course I do, I have bills to pay. But anyway, yes, so any of you who are doing it this year, bravo, how are you getting on? I'm going to talk about motivation in a second too. I hope you're doing well, and I hope that where you haven't been spending, that you've been putting that money into a savings account maybe. It might have been getting swallowed up in higher bills. But yeah, stick with it. Now, on the subject of bills, I'm going to just catch you up on how my low spend, no spend January has been. And I've got some notes because I wanted to do some maths. Because I did have a spend. Oh, naughty. I've had a bit of a naughty spend. I don't regret it for a second. But not only have I had a very low spend month, I've had an even lower spend month than normal. So I've managed to have a chunk of extra cash. Plus, I've generated some extra cash this month. So not only has it been a no spend month, apart from this one thing, I've actually ended up putting more into savings than I anticipated, which is absolutely fabulous. So in terms of spends, what have I done? Oh no, we're doing bills first. Okay, let's do the spend. I spent £10 earlier in January at the pub on a couple of pints. Do you remember I was saying I bumped into a friend in the bookshop and she was quite distressed. Like, oh my goodness, what's wrong? Let's go and chat. There's the pub. Let's go in the pub. So I spent a tenner on 2 pints of beer. Don't regret it for a minute. It was blooming gorgeous. And more than anything, you know, there to support my friend, who I've subsequently caught up with, and she's so much better now. So I don't have regrets. And also, although I do live this really, really ridiculously low spend life, I don't deny myself all pleasure all the time. You know, the thing about being a really low spender is when things like that happen, a little spontaneous moment, I can say to myself, well, you know what? I know I've not spent anything this month, so yeah, I can go and blow 10 quid in the pub. It's not an issue. So that was my little cheat this month. But coming back to the bills, I've been working really hard on my fuel bill. Probably like, I think everybody's been so mindful of their fuel bills this winter. By fuel, I mean gas and electricity for the home. I don't mean fuel to put in the car. That's obvious, isn't it? I hope so. So the most recent price increase was back at the end of October. I mean, it's just been every 3 months going up, up, up. And my November bill wasn't too bad because we had a really mild November. It was when I got my December bill, it was shocking. Now, I really like the company I'm with because their communication is fantastic. So they've communicated really well about the everybody in the UK is getting a bit of government support for 6 months through the winter by way of £66 towards our fuel bills. So they communicated all of that brilliantly. They've dealt with it. They've just applied it. I haven't had to do anything. Great. But also where I found them really good is after that increase in October, they did a projection for me of what my bills might look like with the new increase. Again, just helping me, you know, taking the maths out of it for me. And normally over the winter months, my bill would be about 100 quid. In the summer, it's much lower, so it can, you know, even that. Anyway, it's about 100 quid each month. And they were projecting that it could be as much as, I think it was did they say 220? I can't remember, that email was a long time ago. It was about 220 and I thought, there is no way I can pay £220 a month for fuel, because at this time of year when income is at its lowest, that would be a third of my income on one utility bill. That's crazy. I can't do it. Anyway, so the December bill came in and I thought, crikey, it's not as bad as they said, but it was still really high. I think it was about 160 quid and I'd hardly had the heating on. And you remember in December we had that 10-day freeze where and even the daytime temperatures weren't getting into positive figures. You know, we were below freezing even during the daytime. It's hideous. Keep the heat on, and still the bill was way more than usual. So I've just sort of redoubled my efforts in January, and obviously since that December bill, it was at some point in December, I bit the bullet and I said, I'm going to invest in some thermals, tick. Also in December, I don't think I ever showed them to you, but I had discovered the joy of wearing slippers in the house. It makes such a difference. And I got a really cheap, scratty pair that I'd had for using down at Auntie Teapot's house, because I've never worn slippers. So the ones I'd bought for down at hers were really, really cheap things. Anyway, needless to say, they fell apart. So I spent 20 quid on a pair of really lovely moccasins. Oh my goodness, they're so warm. So those things combined, plus I think the fact that I was starting to get used to just it's cold in the flat, meant that as we came into January, and this is the point I'm trying to make, there were a couple of days, we've had a couple of milder days at the end of the month, but I haven't put the heating on at all. And on the days when I do put it on, if I put it on, it's literally for an hour, 1 hour, that's it. In the morning to take the worst of the chill off. And generally, because I start my day at the desk, that means another hoodie over the top of this one. I'm always in at least 4 layers. My base layer of thermals every single day. What a brilliant investment. So massively reduce the amount the heating is on. So an hour a day, if that. Not using the oven, which hasn't been an issue at all. I'm perfectly happy with all the food I'm cooking on this stove. Although the other day, I think it's because Richard and Paul talked about it, I did suddenly really, really want a baked potato. I'd really like a baked potato. I'm not putting the oven on for an hour and a half for a baked potato, no way. And don't anybody go on about microwaves and blah, blah, blah. I don't have one, and I'm not buying a microwave just to have a baked potato. It's not economical. The other thing I've done, I'm always really mindful with the lights anyway. I've never been one of those people to leave lights on everywhere, but I have stopped using most of the overhead lights in the living room, and I just use that one work lamp. It's the big tall one that I can angle for if I'm reading or working, or I point it up at the ceiling if I want a more sort of general light. So I miss brightness, but it's okay. And something else I talked about is this thing of unplugging. Now, unplugging your appliances after you've used them or at the end of the day before you go to bed. The thing is, I'm just checking now, I've not got anything plugged in. I just thought I'd better check so I'm not lying. I don't leave anything plugged in. So the minute I finish using something, I unplug it anyway. So, and actually I don't have a lot of electrical stuff. There's the obvious things like fridge, freezer, washing machine, computer, but then it's, toaster, blender. What else is plugged in? Lamp. Sewing machine. Anyway, you get the idea. So I always unplug things anyway, but what I hadn't thought to do was with the washing machine, because it's kind of hardwired into the wall behind there, but I've got a little circuit breaker switch that I can access, and it's got a little red light on it. It's like, hang on, that is using some electricity. So now even the washing machine gets properly disconnected after use. It's taken me a while to get used to that, because I keep putting washing in the machine and then closing the door and turning it on, nothing happens, and I think, oh, it's broken. Oh no, hang on, it's turned off at the wall. So yeah, keeping everything unplugged, reducing, having one bath a week instead of a bath every couple of days. Still miss my baths. Doing the laundry every 10 days instead of every 7 days. The point is, it's all been doable. I haven't massively liked being cold, but since that really, really cold bit in December, I haven't felt that cold because it hasn't been that cold. The temperatures have risen, and just being active in the house, and if the sun's on it. Anyway, the long and the short is I've just had my January bill and it was 90 quid. So this January my bill is the same as it was 2 years ago, but 2 years ago I would have had the heating on pretty much all day. So £90, I mean, it still seems like a vast amount of money, doesn't it, to basically be going without. But I don't want to give all those greedy shareholders even more profit. No, they can do one. And the one thing that I was thinking about this the other day, it occurs to me, when we go into next winter, well, I've got my thermals and my slippers, I have acclimatised, I've got these new habits of just not putting the heating on. So if ever prices do come down again one day, I mean, some people are saying these prices might go on for years, but here's hoping they come down. But yeah, if they come down in future, my bills are going to be much, much lower, because I'm not going to go back to my old ways of just having the heating on all the time. I'm not doing it. I am not giving profit to greedy shareholders. You know what? I've been okay. I've been absolutely perfectly okay. So fantastic. Got that bill down. Brilliant. I'm chuffed with that. One of my bills, I've just had an email to say it's going up, and that's my Broadband, my internet service provider. And this has made me a bit angry. It's made me a lot angry, actually. I knew this was happening because Martin Lewis talked about it on the Money Show last week. If you're outside of the UK, Martin Lewis is kind of like our money guru in the UK, and he's a great spokesperson fighting for the rights of those with the least. And he has a TV show, website, etc. And he was talking about the fact that pretty much all the broadband providers are about to put their bills up, and we can't do anything about it, despite the fact that it's happening mid-contract. And this is what bugs me. It's like, hang on a minute. I am literally right now exactly halfway into my contract. It's a 2-year contract, so I signed up a year ago for a set price. It's like, brilliant. I know that that's what I'm paying for the next 2 years. It was a great deal, brilliant. And but now they can just put it up. So I've had an email, we're putting it up, you've got no choice, nothing you can do about it. And apparently, yes, for some reason, Martin Lewis is saying they're within their rights to do that, it's legal. But can you imagine if everyone who's in contract, which the vast majority of us will be, if we sued all the companies to say, hang on a minute, no, you can't change the contract mid-contract, because that's effectively what they're doing. I signed a contract for a specific sum, don't be changing it. Anyway, they are changing it, and it means that mine's going to go up it's 5 quid or so. I think it's a 14% hike. It's outrageous. Nothing I can do about it. And that whole kind of shopping around, well, they're all much of a muchness. So, if I get some time, I may do a bit of shopping around. It's a shame because I really like my broadband provider. I've had great service from them. I have, in terms of customer service, I've had good service. And in terms of the service, as in my internet connection, it's been good. So I don't really want to risk moving and the internet going dodgy for me because I rely on it so much. Anyway, that's one to look out for all of you, because that will be coming up. But let's get back to the good stuff. I don't want to... we ain't doing doom and gloom here. No way, Jose. So, where else have I managed to either... Well, we know I haven't not spent because of the 2 pints in the pub. But where else have I managed to save? So, for example, my seeds... So do you remember when I was doing the budgeting video, I talked about the fact that when I have annual costs, such as my allotment rent and my seed budget, the seed budget also covers a bit of compost, but that I budget for £100 for those two things, plot rent and seeds. Budget of £100, that means I know that I need to put away £2 every week, or put it another way, £8.50 a month, round it up, £10 a month goes away for the plot fund. So where I normally have that £50 for spending on my seeds and bits, as I mentioned in that other video, I'm going to try and really do the garden on the cheap, just using what I've got. However, there were a couple of seeds I wanted to get, and I've spent £6. So, oh sorry, no, I budget £40 for seeds. So I've spent £6, so that's a saving of £34, or a no spend of £34. Woohoo! I'm really chuffed with that. There's also, I've done some generating of cash. So normally each month I try, if possible, it's not always possible, but I try to I cover my bills, I cover my food, and then there's usually about £200, and I try to put it all into savings, all of it. But with my bits and bobs this month, they total 114, these either savings or generations of income. So this month, or for January, I'm able to put away £314 into savings, into the house fund. Woohoo! Now, you see, it doesn't sound like much, does it? Oh, saved £34 on the seeds, these couple of other things, it's £114. Doesn't sound like much. Add it to the other bit of savings, doesn't sound like much. But let's round it down to 300. If I did that every month, at the end of the year, that's over £3,500. That's a huge chunk of money. That's a chunk of money big enough to, buy a second-hand car if you needed a new car. It's a big enough chunk to do a major repair at home, or, as it is for me, that's for buying, my white goods and things like that when I move. Anyway, so just saying that, don't, £34, you might dismiss it and think, well, it's not much, is it? But add it to all the other bits and pieces, put it into the savings, don't play with it, don't spend it. And before you know it, you will be able to, just generate that little bit of a lump sum, a bit of a safety net, or you'll be using it to pay off debt. So, yay, saving on the seeds. Also, so I allow myself, it's about 50, just a little bit more than £50 a month for food. So it's about £12 a week, but there's slightly more than 4 weeks in a month. We'll call it £50. Last month, so for January, I'm just checking, my food spend was really low because I'm just really well stocked with stuff at the moment. So my food spend was £28 for the whole month, which gives me a leftover of 22. Now, I haven't put that into savings because I've spent it on something. I've spent it on a new supplement to try because of my knees. Grr. I'm going to talk more about that separately in another video because, supplementing, whether it's vitamins, minerals, whatever it is, we shouldn't just do it lightly, we shouldn't go into it blindly. Gosh, I'm so sorry, got an itchy schnozzle as usual. So I'm going to talk about that in depth in another video. But anyway, so the leftover 22, I've spent, I think it was 14 on the supplements, and there might have been some postage, we'll come to it. But there's going to be about £3 or £4 left over from my leftover food spend that's not been spent on the supplements. There's about £3 or £4, fine, that can be put away. Then what was great, what I've written in really tiny writing, I was just trying to get everything down. So the other thing this month, I keep saying this month, I can't get used to the idea that it's February yet, because this year is going too quickly already. Again, time's too quick. Oh my giddy goodness. 2 lots of generated income this month, that last month, January. So I sold a couple of my first editions, as I mentioned, when I had my little bookshop moment and my lovely little interlude on the street with my mate. So that was 35 quid. And I've just sold 6 items on eBay, and that was 45 quid. I actually had 8 items listed, 2 didn't sell, that's fine. I didn't kind of think any of them would, I wasn't sure. And I was thinking, well, if I got a fiver for any of them, brilliant. But I ended up with 6 items sold for 45 quid. So that was 80 quid with my books and a couple of books and a couple of items on eBay, 6 items, £80, 80, added to my seed fund that I haven't spent. That's £114 extra to go into savings in a low spend month, when I did spend a whole 10 quid on 2 pints of beer. Yay! Now, I just wanted to talk about the beer and sort of motivate. Oh, I fancy a beer now. I see it's getting kind of glooming and dark outside, and it's just the kind of perfect afternoon to hook up with mates at the pub and just sit cosy by the fire in the pub, drinking pints and chatting. Not going. This thing about me having spent that 10 quid, and the whole thing's like, oh, well, I'm not going to beat myself up, because I know it's not something that I do every day, every week. I don't even do it every month, so I'm fine with it. But I was thinking that if any of you are trying a no-spend year for the first time ever this year, you may have gone at it quite gun-ho, like we do with a new diet, as in food diet to lose weight. And you may be being really strict with yourself, and it's fantastic, brilliant, I'm going without, isn't this great? And then one day you go, oh, I'm sick of this, I'm going to buy myself a takeaway coffee, and then, oh, I might as well have a donut while I'm at it, and walk a few more paces down the high street, and there's a beautiful, flower store. You think, I'm going to treat myself to a bunch of flowers because I've been working really hard this month and I've gone without, and and before you know, you've blown 60 quid on the high street. Firstly, don't beat yourself up. We should never beat ourselves up. There's enough other people around us sending neggy thoughts our way. We don't need to add to it. Don't beat yourself up. But I was thinking that for any of those of you who are maybe struggling with that, is take my treats for a tenner idea that I do for Christmas, but do it every month. I mean, look, this is going to depend on your income. And I don't want to, I don't want to seem like I'm being insensitive to people who even £10 a month, they do not have it spare. This isn't aimed at those people. This is aimed at people who do have an income, or for people who've got a small income but have been a bit profligate with their shopping previously, another shampoo every week. Let's get those shampoos cleared out of the house before you buy any more. Let's just park that. Let's assume that you are in the position where £10 a month on some treats is not going to hurt. Meanwhile, because you will be reducing your spending massively, hopefully, so that at the end of the month you can say, you know what, here's a tenner and I'm going to blow it on whatever I want, so you can still have that slight kind of retail therapy, whatever it is, whatever floats your boat. So go and buy yourself a book, or go to the charity shop, but take cash, your £10 in cash, and don't get a card out. Look, if you've got really bad card debt, hopefully you've cut your cards up, or, as Martin Lewis suggests, put the card into Tupperware, fill it with water, put it in the freezer. So your card is frozen into a block of ice. But yeah, give yourself treats for a tenner every single month. I mean, you might say to yourself, how much is takeaway coffee? I've got no idea, I've never had one. £2.50, is it? You might say to yourself, well, I'm going to allow myself one takeaway coffee every week, and that will be my treats for a tenner. that month. You might get to the end of the month and think, you know what, I'm going to roll my tenner over. So next month I can have treats for 20 quid. Yay! The main thing is to, exactly like with that whole diet thing, if you've been so strict, you know, if you're only eating cabbage soup every day, don't do that. You need more than that. And you get to the end of the month and you eat a biscuit and then you eat the whole packet of biscuits and you go, I don't care, you just eat the whole lot. Okay, tomorrow you get back on the horse, don't you? So if you've done really well and then you've kind of fallen off the horse a bit and blown it on something really unnecessary. I'm not talking about necessary stuff like buying thermals to get yourself through a winter with no heating. I'm talking about fripperies like 2 pints in the pub. It's glorious. So yeah, give yourself treats for a tenner every single month. I mean, you might be financially in a position, a considerably better position, and you might say, I'm going to do treats for a tenner once a week. But just remember, if you're having a low spend year and you do treats for a tenner every week, at the end of the year, if you haven't done that, that's 520 quid. That's a new washing machine. That's a weekend away somewhere really nice and, you know, in nice accommodation. 520 quid. That's 3 or 4 train journeys to see family up north or whatever it is. So yeah, keep yourself motivated however you can, but don't beat yourself up if you spend a little bit. And the other thing to remember is, look, the bottom line is, this isn't a competition. There's no prize at the end of this year for going, yes, I did best, I didn't spend a single penny and my friend spent 25p. Stuff that. That's not what it's about. It's about you being much more mindful with how you spend your money. If that is the sort of thing that's been out of control for a few years, if money is just disappearing and you don't know where, being mindful about your spending, thinking twice before you buy anything. When it's in your hand, do I really need it? No? Put it back on the shelf. And, you know, by doing all of that, hopefully paying down some of those hideous debts like credit cards. If you've gotten into a bit of a pickle with your credit cards, paying down mortgage, whatever it is, keep reminding yourself why you're doing it, and you will get there. You'll get there. And if needs be, have some treats at the end of the month for 10 quid. Or maybe even 5 quid. Whatever it is. But yes, anyway, I hope you are all, you know, underway with your no spend year or your no spend second year. If this is your second year doing it, good on you. And thank you to those of you who've written privately to tell me about your various successes. And that £7,000 credit card debt, that is going to make me a bit I do feel emotional about this when I think when we share like this, when we encourage each other, really amazing things can happen. So, you made my day with that particular message, you know who you are. Anyway, right, I'm about to burble, and I was hoping to go and stretch my legs on the high street, because even though my back's tweaky, I need to keep moving. But it looks like, is it going to chop down? I don't know. Never mind. I'm waffling now. So I will shut up and I will see you again really soon. I really hope next time we'll be in the garden and then I can show you in situ the plan for the coming year. We'll see. Whatever. I'll see you again soon. Until then, please look after yourself. Look after each other. Look after strangers. Look after your pennies. Just look after yourselves. All right, lovelies. Cheerio.